Hello and welcome to the next episode of the EV Bids podcast. I'm Tory Hornsby. I have here with me Rod Stuckey. How's it going, Rod?
It's going great, Tory. Good to be here.
I'm excited about this week's podcast because I feel like it applies to so many people. Anybody who has ever sold a vehicle on a marketplace, your Facebook or Craigslist, Auto Trader, to a private party, there is a high potential for scam. And there's a lot of ways that scammers get in there. So today, that's what we're going to be talking about is how to avoid those scams when you're selling a vehicle to a private party on marketplace. Gosh, man, they're getting ever more creative, these scammers, aren't they?
Yes, they are. And I think I read that, like about half of all of the, or 45%, give or take, of all used vehicles sold are actually sold peer-to-peer in the private party market. And so when you consider just how huge that private party market is, there's a lot of dollars flowing there, and that's a lot of opportunities for scammers to figure out how to game the system.
Yeah, and just to put a number on that, I read it's something like 16 million private party vehicle sales per year. So even if it's a small, tenth of a percent that is scam, that still represents a huge number. But man, I've seen everything from, hey, I'm going to send somebody there to pick up the car. They'll review it. They'll get it loaded up. And if they like it, if they verify it, then I'll send you funds. So like, hold on, you're going to load it up, then you're going to give me funds? No, that doesn't fly. And there's fake cashier's checks. Heck, there's fake money. There's so many ways that a private party deal can go wrong.
And it's ever evolving. I was joking about the other day, you got onto me because I clicked on a link in an email that I shouldn't have. And I'm like, damn, I'm getting old. Like, what the heck? The scammers they're always coming up with new ways to, they're always coming up with new scams. And just when you think you're young and hip and you know all the scams, there's a new scam for the scam. So
you think, man, if they would put all of that energy and creativity into being productive, they could actually make something of themselves. But yeah, that was funny. And it's not just on the seller side that can get scammed. Plenty of buyers get scammed where there's something wrong with the vehicle. And so we'll kind of jump into some of the things to avoid or to really look into when you're buying a vehicle. And the first things first is just from a seller's perspective, it's the proper verification of the ID of the buyer. You want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, identity verification of the buyer is super important, and you want to be sure that this person is who that they say they are. And there's a lot of really trick technology out there. Obviously, the bare minimum, you want to look at get a copy of their driver's license. But there's also some really neat tools out there where you can scan their driver's license and it'll do, they'll take a selfie and sometimes it can even, verify addresses and through a database. But at bare minimum, you need to get a copy of the driver's license to verify that this person is who they say they are.
Yeah, that service is so valuable, though, because I think every college kid has a fake ID, and the average person selling a vehicle wouldn't know the difference. Yeah. Heck, the bouncers who see this all the time at the places that those college kids are going don't even know the difference sometimes. So huge service there that they're providing. And again, not just the buyer, verification, but what about from the buyer side, the seller? Is that their vehicle? Do they have authorization to sell that vehicle?
Yes, vehicle ownership verification from the sellers. I mean, when Tory and I were in the dealership days, there was all kind of crazy scenarios from, the girlfriend comes in, buys the vehicle for the boyfriend. She quote gives it to him, but she bought it. It's titled in her name. They break up. Well, he's like, hey, this is mine. I'm going to go sell it. Well, no, it's not yours to sell. And so it's amazing how, we've seen, we were just doing a deal with a guy and he was, he was representing it as it was his. And when we went through this vehicle ownership verification, it wasn't titled under his name. It was titled under his cousin's name. And so then we had to go through this whole rigmarole to get in touch with his cousin. Well, my cousin told me to sell it for him. So like the vehicle ownership verification of the seller is another really important step in the process.
And in that case, it did work out and it was legit.
It was.
For everyone that's legit, there is the potential for there to be one that you go through and do the deal, and then the cousin comes back and is like the old TV show, dude, where's my car? Yep. You remember that old movie? It was a stupid movie. But and then you might verify that they are the owner of the car, they have a title, but you really need to verify the title and even see if it has a lien. That's kind of two separate things: title verification and lien verification. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yes. So many private party deals are going to have a payoff. And so the buyer and the seller are going to have to reach an agreement. We're going to have to verify what is the outstanding balance. We're going to have to call the bank to be sure. And, if the sales price is $25,000 and there's $32,000 owed on the vehicle, well, how do we know that the seller is going to pay the $7,000 to the bank in negative equity? And so there is it's really important that there is an authorization for payoff. In fact, I'm sitting here. I got one right here. We were just doing one yesterday. Agreement and authorization for payoff. It's super important. I to dot and T to cross. And things can go sideways there. And next thing you know, you've got a title that is not clear and you've written a check for $25,000 to the seller.
Yep. And the seller, I've seen that happen to where it's not a scam. The seller is ignorant. So what they think is like, I'm going to sell this for 25 grand and then I'm going to pay the bank off. And like somehow they think that their $7,000 is going to come out of the 25 and they're going to be left with 18,000. Like there's a lot of ignorance.
Yeah, sellers will think that I can just, I have no intention to scam. I'm just going to keep making my monthly payment till it's paid off. But I need this 25 grand right now. The 25 grand is going to actually help me to keep making the payment. I'm just going to keep making the payment. No,
right? Yeah, I'm not going to pay off the lien.
People think all the time that that's perfectly fine to do, and it does. In their defense, it can get confusing, and so. It's another important thing in peer-to-peer private party sales for title and lien verification and processing.
What about, I know every state has a different bill of sale, but having even if it is handwritten, making sure that it checks the boxes. Like, you want to tell us about how is the bill of sale important?
Yeah, I mean, bill of sale, you just said it. Every state has a little checklist of certain items that need to be included on the bill of sale so that, if you go to register that vehicle with your state, that you can legally prove that you have purchased the vehicle. And so, sometimes, and it varies by state, but, some people roll up to the tag office with a bill of sale written on a napkin. And that bill of sale is not have all of the required information from the state. And now I've bought the vehicle and I can't get my tag because I don't have a proper bill of sale. And so a bill of sale is definitely, kind of the anchor, if you will, behind making the transaction legal and official.
I've seen, Rod, where the seller of the vehicle then, under those circumstances, then blackmails the buyer and says, I'm not going to sign another bill of sale, but unless you pay me $200. And so they extort the fact that it wasn't done right the first time. And, okay, could the buyer fight that? Yeah, but is it worth it in the long run? No, you just end up paying the extra $100 just to be able to get the title and tag transferred correctly. But you hate coming up with an amount and then they blackmail you for more money. I've seen that actually happen in more than one case.
When you buy a vehicle from a dealership, usually you'll sign some type of power of attorney, which basically says, hey, if something goes wrong, or if we've made a mistake with the paperwork, and can't get this properly titled, then you agree to come back in and work this out. And in private party deals, you just don't have that level of attention to detail to get a power of attorney. And so now if you're the buyer and you don't dot an I or cross a T with the seller, and they've ridden off into the sunset, they've got their money. Now you're stuck trying to get the title and the tag, and you can't because you didn't do something correct. It can be a mess. And to your point, we have seen sellers who are like, sorry, pal, not my problem.
Not going to help.
To be in.
Yeah. That's an important point. There is an agreement as a part of the power of attorney that says that you will come in, but the power of attorney actually allows us, for instance, as a dealer, to limited just to that vehicle registration, to not even have to bother you. We can just take care of it without you. We have a power of attorney to sign our name on your behalf just for the registration of the vehicle. Makes it a lot simpler. And then, of course, there's just DMV work, including sales tax, ad valorem tax, we call it in Georgia. You want to tell us a little bit about DMV? What are some things to look for on a private party sale there?
Yeah, so states differ, but you have we always call them temporary tags. Now here in the state of Georgia, they're called TOPS, temporary operating permits. But basically, your drive out tag that you would get at a dealership when you do a private party deal, the seller takes their tag. Now you're driving around with no tag. So, usually in most states, if you have a legal bill of sale, you can prove ownership of the vehicle. You'll have like 30 days to go to the DMV and register that vehicle. You'll go to usually your local county, and you'll provide the bill of sale and the title, and then they'll issue you the tag at that point. But here again, if you don't complete all of the previous checklist items that we've talked about, now you're at the tag office and you can't get your tag because you haven't dotted your I's and crossed your T's, and usually that is the point where you'll have to pay sales tax or ad valorem tax, depending upon how your state does that. Yep,
and that not having a temporary tag on a car, operating a vehicle without a tag, you will get pulled over. If you pass a police officer, and they're not just trying to harass you, but you're driving a car without a tag. You're like, what's going on here? And so you certainly can avoid the hassle by having a temporary permit there. But the ad valorem tax or the sales tax, not every state has it, of course, but for the ones that do, that does bring into another level of something that can be a hardship for a buyer, which is financing and getting a loan to pay for the car. And typically, if you're doing private party, you can't get a loan that would cover the ad valorem tax, the sales tax. So that's another thing to consider from a private party buying standpoint, that loan process. And then be sure you have the funds to cover your ad valorem tax that will be coming if your state has that. So what about payment verification, Rod? So
this is the biggie. This is, I did a private party deal. My dad had a classic Mercedes convertible, and he was out of town, and I had to meet this guy, and he flew down from New York to get this Mercedes. He bought it off of I think it was Bring a Trailer or one of those sites, and he had a cashier's check, and we meet up face to face, and he's got this. I had asked him to wire the funds, and then he ends up with a cashier's check, and then he doesn't want to give me the cashier's check until he test drives the car, and he had his partner with him. It was a 2-seater car. And I'm like, well, dude, you're not taking off in the car till I verify these funds. And he's like, well, I'm not giving you the check until I drive the car. And we're standing there in this hotel parking lot. And I'm like, this is so awkward, you know.
Somebody has to give and trust.
And it's the same thing, even if you're doing, you know, a wire transfer, which is probably the more secure way of doing it. He told me that his banker said, don't you dare wire transfer them the money until you've got the car. And so again, this was a little different situation because it was, you know, a out of state deal, but payment verification, ensuring that the funds are, you know, if it's a bag of cash, is that bag of cash, is it counterfeit? You know, if it's a cashier's check, is it legit? If it's a wire transfer, when is it going through? So payment verification can be clumsy on a private party deal. And, you know, the dollars of cars nowadays, I mean, back when you and I were younger, Tory, it wasn't really that big a deal to show up with $4,500 cash for your 83 Mustang GT. But, you know, times have changed and used cars cost a lot of money nowadays. So
yeah, you can't even get an 83 Mustang GT now for $4,500.
No, you can't.
So, but and by the way, his banker saying that really, you know, you're trustworthy. You know that you meant no ill will, but his banker gave him great advice. Don't you dare wire him money until you have the car.
Yeah.
But you didn't even necessarily want that. You just wanted them to wire the money instead of a cashier's check when they were getting the car.
And this was a character. He was not, you know, sometimes you got a rapport with a seller and you feel like, yeah, we're tight. You know, he's
there's
good.
some trust there.
This guy was not my. I wasn't familiar. Very different cultures and different kind of. You know, he was just a character, and it made it very awkward. So it turned out fine. I eventually just made the judgment call and took a leap of faith, and really the fact that he wouldn't give me the check until he drove the car is what made me go, the check must be legit, because he's really laboring.
He's protecting it.
He was really protective of it. So I said, all right, I think it's legit. Yeah. But it was a little bit of a leap of faith there. So
anyway. And then but even when you have a cashier's check, you still want to call and verify that it is legit, that the bank account's real, and that it can cover the funds. But that's all of this is just a hassle.
Yep.
And the average person selling a vehicle is not going to be able to do that. And there's a lot of pros in selling your vehicle to a private party. Typically, you're going to get more money than you would as a trade-in or selling it to a dealer. And I think everybody understands that.
That's an interesting point, Tori. You say, why are there so many private party deals? Why in the world would 16 million people go through this? And because private party deals tend to be a little bit better value for the buyer and the seller. I've heard, $1,500 to $2,500 difference is enough in a lot of cases to make a private party go through all of these challenges we just talked about, because I'm going to save $2,500. It's worth it for me to do this. So it can be real money.
It is real money. That $2,500. I've also seen, though, to where I think that there could potentially be more private party deals. But if I have a Tesla, Model X let's just say it's worth $60,000 and I owe $50,000 on it, there's a big difference between doing a $20,000 deal and doing a $60,000 deal. Mm-hmm. And if I owe $45,000 on it, from a buyer's perspective, that's real money. Like, hold on, wait, you got to pay off $45,000. So I think that there's even more private party deals that would happen, but just the stakes get bigger. And that's where, a company like us, a dealership like us, EV Bids, what we offer is relief for all of these issues. Between two private party sales, essentially we allow a buyer and a seller, a private party, to sell the vehicle to make the additional money that they would instead of selling it to a dealership or a Carvana or something like that. They make more money. And then for a small fee, we step in and provide all the services of of a dealership to ensure a safe and secure transaction. And just going through this list of what we've talked about here, the identification of buyers, we're going to handle that. The vehicle ownership verification for the seller, the title and lien verification. Is there a payoff? How do you pay it off? The buyer doesn't want to trust the seller with all the money just to send it to the bank like we were talking about. Well, we handle that. We're the intermediary that handles that between the buyer and the seller, and we provide the bill of sale. Because essentially what we do is we buy it for the actual sales price. We buy it from the seller, and then we sell it to the buyer for the same price for just a small fee for that bill of sale. We give the temporary tag. We do the DMV paperwork. We can provide the financing, and even finance in a lot of cases. If there's ad valorem or sales tax, we can finance that in. And then we're the ones who are accepting the money. And then we accept the money and provide that payment verification. And then we pay the seller of the vehicle, and it's guaranteed. So because we're a licensed dealer, we're registered with the IRS. And furthermore, just on a side note, we can even give the $4,000 tax credit if the vehicle's eligible and the buyer's eligible as a down payment. It just comes right off the top. It's pretty incredible what we can do for a very, very small fee. And that's what I just want to kind of end this call with, is that if you want to put up with all this hassle, hey, more power to you. Great, man. That's awesome. But if for just, you're saving money selling at private party, you're already saving a lot of money for just a small fee. I think that there's a lot of people who would just rather let a dealership handle it. Still, the private party sale happens, but we step in and be the intermediary there.
Yeah.
Anything to add to that, Rod?
Yeah, I just wanted to, kind of clarify how we have arrived here at providing this done for you service. We began specializing in electric vehicles, and we had people coming to us asking, could we help them with their pre-owned EV tax credit? And
it's not eligible for two private parties to sell that. You do not get the tax credit.
Right. And so we then, kind of having that improvise, adapt, and overcome mentality that we do, we're like, how can we help private parties get this $4,000 tax credit? This podcast is being done in February of 24. In January of 24, they announced that the $4,000 tax credit can be issued. It can be as a credit at the point of sale, meaning you don't have to wait and file your tax return. You can get it right now. And because we're a licensed dealer, it means that we're regular. Protects our customers, compensation for financial harm if we were to fail to comply with the licensing regulations in the state of Georgia. So specifically, the bond protects our customers in the event that we were to engage in any types of fraud or fail to pay any required taxes and fees. And so obviously we would never allow this to happen.
No.
But this allows our valued customers to feel confident and trust that EV Bids is committed to a safe and secure and scam-free private party deal closing.
Yep. And just outside of the fraud, when a private party is handling all of this, it's easy to make a mistake. Well, we have the repetition so we don't make the mistake. But even if we did, the bond is there to ensure that there's a safe and secure and guaranteed clean transaction. It's guaranteed. So that's it. That's it, guys, on how to avoid private party vehicle sales scams when selling on Marketplace. For Rod Stuckey, I'm Tory Hornsby with EV Bids. We really appreciate you joining us. Have a great day.